Okay, let's start.
Okay.
I say welcome everyone to one more webinar of the ESB webinar series organized by the ESB Student Committee. Today we have, I think, a very interesting webinar, useful for a lot of people, hopefully. We will also, as a novelty today, would like to ask, also, since we are going to be talking here about a software to create images, which softwares do you normally use, for which we will launch a survey and you can answer it when you can. This webinar is going to be chaired by Gianluca Saldesardi, from the Sapienza University of Rome, and myself, Laura La Fuente Gracia from Carl Leuven in Belgium. Our speaker today, yeah, indeed. Please subscribe also to our YouTube channel, forgot to say, sorry, where this recording will be also added later on, so you can watch it if you miss some details, because Adrian will be showing already some things really in the software. If you don't have it installed yet in your computer, you might be not able to follow all the steps, but you can check the recording later on, and then you can reproduce it. And now back to it. This webinar, is going to be carried on by Adrián Seijas Amardo, who is a PhD candidate at the Merlin Institute for Technology-Inspired Regenerative Medicine in Maastricht University in the Netherlands. Adrián received his bachelor in biotechnology from the University of León in Spain, and his master in biomedical sciences in Maastricht University, where he's now. Actually, his research does not focus on the biomechanics per se, but is close to what we do here too, as he studies, he focuses on the generation of complex in vitro models with a special focus on tissue innervation using different biofabrication technologies, like 3D co-culture systems, human IPCs, and organelles. Therefore, as I said, it's very close to what we normally also see in our conferences. So without further ado, Adrián, I'm gonna give you now the floor. Okay, I think you have it now, so you can say your screen now.
Okay, so yeah, thanks. Thank you very much for inviting me. Also, yeah, thank you for the introduction, Laura and Gianluca. And I also have a bit of a brief introduction on why we're here, what is Blender, and so on. So I hope you can see the screen. Yes.
Yes.
So exactly, as Laura said, you might not have the program installed, but during this first introduction, I can give you a bit of time to install it. So if you want to follow me while I do the stuff, please, I mean, you can go to the website and download it. It's compatible with Windows, Linux, Mac. So yeah, go to the official website always. They hacked the website some time ago and they had some issues, but if you go to the official website, it should be good. So meanwhile you do it, I will explain a bit of the concepts of why we're here. So really, it's really important to take care of the figures of your papers, of course. And one of the reasons is because it doesn't matter what you do at the lab if your figures don't have the same quality, because who actually sees your figures? Everyone. Meanwhile, only the person next to you sees what you're doing in the lab. So that crazy science that you're doing needs to be put outside in a good way. So rendering is one of the options in which you can show your science. And here I want to show you what is possible. So This is a company that works with rendering software, and they have different examples in their website. You can see the level of detail and quality that you can accomplish. Of course, I'm very, very far from here, but this is what is actually possible, these kinds of 3D rendering. So if we go back, so there's different examples of rendering engines. We will focus on Blender, but there are different ones. So Cinema 4D, Maya, Unity. So these ones, they have differences between one and the other. But what I want to show here quickly is that although Blender is free and open source, it's not lagging behind in features compared with the other ones. So you can very well use it, and it's used in big companies, Pixar and so on. They also use Blender, but not only Blender, but a combination probably of different render engines. So yeah, it's good quality, let's say. And I wanted to show this just to also acknowledge, so in Merlin we do this kind of workshops. They are longer and we do more stuff. But this all started with Stefan, that actually inspired me. Stefan is one of the PIs so in Merlin. And then using YouTube, I learned how to use Blender. And this is very important. I will come to this in a minute. Because the community in Blender is very, very important. So why is this? Because so it's free and open source. That is nice because you own your own work. You can download it whenever you want. They have different versions, legacy versions that are still retro-compatible. So in that side, it's very good. But actually, what is extremely nice is the ecosystem, what I was referring as the community. So there's plenty of YouTube tutorials in which you can learn, and that's how I did it. And that's probably how most of the people that didn't go to a specific bachelor on design did it. And actually, this was exactly the video tutorial that I show that I followed for my first time, and that's actually that was my actually first render. So you just have to put a bit of time to start to learn the basics, and from there you can still use the tools and change it to see what you can do next. So I hope that today I will show you these tools, like this video with the donut did some years ago with me. And after the donut, then I started generating more figures for different presentations. Of course, apart from still images, you can also generate animations. Yeah, more examples of a cover that I did for Moniz, one of our colleagues. Okay, so I wanted to show this because it's not just get the software and start right away. I will always suggest to make a tiny sketch of what you want to do. It's better to design it first and see what you want to show and how you want to show it, than then go back and start over again and go back and forth. So first is like a bit of a sketch of what I want to show. Then you start sketching it. And for that, I always rely on YouTube. There's not a single animation or image that I generated that I didn't rely, partially at least, on how to use one of the tools or how to optimize texture, colors, lighting. Yeah, so I always rely on the community. And then, of course, you can add the rest of the features for actually rendering your image. And after, you can render it. And actually, YouTube, I should put it everywhere because I use it at every single point of this pipeline. Okay, so this is how the interface looks like. So if you have it download, you will find something like this. I will start from scratch and you will see it, but you will see an interface that looks like this. Might be a bit overwhelming initially, but you will see that everything makes sense. And actually, the way that I see this interface is a bit like this. So imagine that you are this person holding the camera and you have an object that you want to take a picture of. So you have to first position the object, design the object. Then you have to position the camera with the right angle, focal length. This all you can change. The light, depending from where the light is coming from, it might generate different shadows. The colors might be a bit different, and you can generate a different source of light if you want. And of course, you have to position yourself in the right angle that you want to take this picture. So if we come back to the interface, this is what you see here. You have this, this is the camera. You have the object, that is this cube that is generated initially, but then we can change it. And here we have the light. Then we have here like a timeline. So you can actually generate animations using this time frame. And then, of course, you have the different tools that I will go over in a second. So if everyone downloaded Blender, we can start by showing you the interface. And actually, I have here the menu of this. Okay, I just minimize it. Can I minimize this also? Yes. Okay. So if you open it, you will see this. You can just click outside of this square. I will try to go a bit slow if someone wants to follow at the same time, but as Laura said, you can still always follow the tutorial later on. But yeah, so if you have this screen, you can click outside of this menu, and that will disappear automatically, and we will not need it. So that's all fine. So here, what I was saying is that camera, object, light. Here also something very important is, I never know the name, but these different visualization modes, so different viewports options. So here we have this render mode, but we have one that is a bit more reliable, and then the actual render mode that we will talk later. So we will always work, at least initially, in this mode, and later on we can move to the second and the third. They are more intensive, let's say, on the computer. So that's why we always start with this mode, and then we move later on to the other ones. So here also we have different tools. The most important one probably is this one, that is for moving. So if you click it, you see that we can move this cube in the different axes. So we have the X, Y, and Z axis. So that's how you can move the stuff, or you can move it freely by just doing this, just clicking on the middle one and moving it. Now you can also rotate it. Same principle in the different axes, you can rotate the stuff. Now, if you want to then change your field of view, if you want to see it from above, from below, I'm using a Mac, so that might be different from, well, that is different from Windows. For me to move, I just have to move the mouse trackpad, or in the board, like with the keyboard trackpad. I can also just move it with 2 fingers. With Windows, I highly recommend using a mouse. And I forgot to bring one to show, but the wheel that you have in the middle, you have to click it. Don't scroll it up and down, but you click it. And while you maintain it, click it, you can move the mouse, and that's how you can pan around. If you want to pan in different X, Y, and Z, you can press Shift while you're panning. So you maintain, again, pressing the wheel and then Shift and move the mouse. So that's how can you can move the view. Now, before we start, I will ask you to change 2 settings that you only have to change the first time that you turn on your installation of Blender. So if you go to Edit, and then go to Preferences, you see that here I'm already in add-ons, but if you are not, just click on add-ons, and you have here a search bar. You're going to search for extra objects. So the one that I have here, so you search for extra objects, and you're going to activate, if you don't have it activated, the add mesh extra objects. Okay, so that again is in edit, preferences, add-ons, extra objects, add mesh extra objects. And the second one is in input. So because we are normally using a laptop, we don't have a big keyboard, and that therefore we don't have like the numpad. So we can emulate it. And here in input, you can check the first option, that is emulate numpad. If you have those two things, we can continue. So we can just close it. Now, we are going to delete this cube because we are not going to use it. So different options. In Mac is X and then enter. In Windows, I don't know if you can use the same shortcut, but otherwise you would just right click and delete. Oops, right click and delete. Okay, so now we just have the light and the camera. Now, if you follow the add-ons correctly, in add, we are going to add a, in mesh, we're going to add a round cube. So add mesh round cube. And here we have this cube already generated. Without clicking anywhere else, and if you click it, you might want to delete it and generate it again, you are going to click on this menu. And I say this because this menu, as soon as you click anywhere else, it will disappear. So here the radius, we're going to change it to 1 and enter. So you see that now instead of a cube, we have a sphere, and that's what we want. Now, I'm just going to go to the move tool. I can zoom in. I'm doing that with the trackpad of my laptop, but you can also do that with the wheel of your mouse. Now you see that the faces of the sphere could be smaller, and actually the smaller the better, more resolution. So here we are going to go to modifiers. So if you click on this tool here, we are going to add a modifier. And under generate, we're going to click the option subdivision surface. So, yep. So there was in this one, add modifier subdivision surface. And you already have here some numbers that you can change. Here, the bigger the number, the best it is for quality of the rendering. However, that depends on the laptop that you have, the CPU or the GPU that you use. If you go very high, and with very high, I mean 4, your laptop might crash, and then you cannot save your work. So yeah, be very mindful about this. Now, we have the different numbers for the viewport, so what you're visualizing and the rendering. Now, I'm going to use 2 for the viewport, and for the render, I'm going to keep it at 3, since I'm recording also my screen. I'm not sure how that might work. So yeah. Now, yeah. So with that clear, we're going to right-click and shade smooth. And you see now that this, sorry, I have this bouncing. I hope, yeah, okay, everything is okay. So you see that now it's way smoother, and we don't see the faces of the sphere. Now we're going to add another modifier. So if you're still in this same tool, you just click on add modifier, and here we're going to go to deform and displace. Here we're going to click on new. And if you click on new, you will have now these different options. I want you to click on the last one. So if you click on this one, here we have an option to change image or movie. So we don't want image or movie. We're going to change this to Voronoi. So you see that then we have this kind of amorphous shape. That's what we want, it's fine. And here we have different options that you can change. So you can play with intensity, you can play with the size. So for the moment, we are going to pick like a size like this. I don't know. I will play a bit around, but now the case is just for you to see how it works rather than that make it nice. And now once you have this, you see that now we are in a different panel. We're going to go back to the modifiers tool. And here we can change the strength. So you see that I'm going now. So if you go up, it protrudes in a different way. And if I go to -4 or so, it protrudes in this way. So you can play with the strength, and you can play also inside of this texture with the size and the intensity. Now I'm going to leave it like this, but there are different options for making it different. Good. So I can zoom in a bit. Now we want to, well, before that, we're going to duplicate this because, so this will be the cytoplasm of our cell, but we also want to create the nuclei. So we're going to leave this as one, and we will use another one as the other one. So if you right click, we can click on duplicate object. And now you see that if I don't do anything else, it follows the new object, the mouse. So I'm just going to put it somewhere here, just on top of the other one, and click with my mouse. So now without doing anything else, I can click on S in my laptop, S, and then I can scale it, see? So if I click S and move my mouse, that's all I need. Now I will make it a bit bigger. So this will be then the cytoplasm, and that's it. So you see now on the list of objects that I have a round cube. That was the one that I initially generated. And then I have a round cube 001. So this is going to be the cytoplasm. So the cytoplasm, I wanted to be a bit transparent so we can see through the nucleus. So for doing that, having this last one selected, I'm going to go to materials. And here I'm just going to create a new material. So I'm going to change this surface property, and I'm going to select glass. So glass BSDF. Now, you see that we did nothing change in this case, and this is because we are in this mode, in the viewport shading mode. So if we move to the next one, you see that this is slightly different. It kind of has like a bit of reflections and a different color. And if we move to the third one, it is transparent, maybe too much, right? So we can actually now play with IOR and with the roughness. So this will give you a bit of a different, like, so we'll make it a bit more translucent or less, and a bit more shiny or less. So you can play a bit with this just by increasing or decreasing the number. And a trick for changing these numbers quickly is just to, with your mouse, click and then move the mouse. So you can do that quickly instead of having to type the number. Now, if we click on the first one, you see that the inner one now is selected. And I'm going to now create a new material. And here I'm going to leave it like this. And I'm going to click on the pink to make it a bit pinkish. Actually, let's move it a bit outside so you can see it. So you see now that is pink. Good. And now we're going to change the render mode to make it a bit more reliable. So that's another thing that I should explain. So here we go to render. You see that we are using if. We're going to change that to cycles, right? So you see now that this gives more like a realistic view, and if you don't see it now, you will see it later, and if you start playing with it. So Eevee is less intensive on your computer, is the one that is used in video games, render engines, but you can also use cycles. In this case, that it will give you a bit more of a realistic view. So we can click on cycles. I'm just going to leave it in CPU. You can switch to GPU if you have one, but if I change now, maybe it glitches and then I lose everything. So you can change that if you have one. Good. So now if I put it inside and go to the cytoplasm, I'm going to play with the material. I'm going to play with the roughness. I'm going to play with the IOR. And you see that if I decrease it, the IOR, it becomes transparent. Yeah. So roughness, you can make it different. So if you decrease it, you see that it becomes a bit more shiny. If you increase it, it's a bit more opaque, but you can see better the different shades and the different shapes of the cytoplasm. But let's leave it a bit low. Let's make it shiny. And the IOR, so more of the same. You can increase it and then it becomes a bit more opaque, and you can play a bit with how the light works here, or you can make it very low and then it becomes very translucent. So this is personal preference. However you prefer, you leave it like that. Good. So we have our cell generated. Now we can play on positioning the camera now. So since we have now the numpad emulated, I can click on 0, and you will have this. If you didn't change the location of the objects and you didn't change the camera location, you will have it already in your field of view. So if you press 0, this is what the camera is seeing, and this is what you can render afterwards. So a way to change the view angle, imagine that I want to zoom in. So if I zoom in now with my mouse, you see that I'm zooming in my field of view, but not the camera. You see that the square here that is more light is what actually is going to render. It's not changing. It's changing just my perspective of this view. So if you actually want to change the camera, you can come here to this arrow, and then you have this menu, this tiny arrow that was there. And you're going to go to view, and you're going to click on log camera to view. So in this case now, if I zoom in, it does zoom in the camera. So you can change that, or you can also pan a bit around. Yeah. Now let's leave it like that. Now technically I can already render it. If you're already making questions why it's so granular, it's because it's rendering this in real time. So your computer, if you are doing this now with me, might start already the fans because it's already a bit heavy to compute everything. So we're gonna start already doing some trials with the rendering. So here we go to render. We can, so you see here we have denoise. Check it if you didn't check it. And here by default, we have maximum samples on 4096. We're going to decrease that drastically, otherwise we will be here for hours. So we will do now just 20. So you just click and do something like 20. You can go to 30, 10, just for a quick trial, and enter. Okay, so now I always recommend saving before doing any rendering, because if some of your settings is off, it might crash and you will lose everything. So I click on File and Save, and I will save it in desktop, for example. I won't put any name. I will just leave it like this. Okay, and now it's in my desktop. So now it's saved, and with that being saved, I can already go to render and render image. So you see that we have a different window now, and it's starting rendering. Now you see that we have here time. I never check the time. What I do check is the sample. So remember that we put here 20. These are the 20 samples that we are doing. So it's doing 10 of 20. So depending on how fast and your laptop is and the quality that you put and everything, it may take more or less. So you can play with this. Of course, now we are doing 20. If we were to increase it, the quality will increase. But also some things that you can do for increasing this is to play with the lighting. Better light will improve the quality also. Put in different surfaces, and that's what we're going to do now, will improve it. So if you want to save already this render, you can do so by going to Image and Save. Now I'm just going to close it and keep working on this one. Forgot to mention about denoise. We have different ways of doing the denoise. I remember that I had different ones. Okay, but maybe this is a different version now. But open image denoise is the one that I always use. Maybe now with the new they changed the location, but okay, that one is okay. Good. So now we are still in what the camera is seeing. So let's move and click again on 0. And it's not okay now 0, and that will give you again the layout mode. Good. So what we can do is actually select, and by doing this you can select everything and move it, and we can duplicate. So now we can generate another object. So same as before, right click, duplicate. So now we have 2. I can again select, duplicate, and now I will position it here, for example. Good. So now we have 3. This will be a bit more heavy on your computer, depending on how the sample is doing here in the modifiers. If you see that it's lagging, you can decrease this number. If you see that it's hanging okay, you can actually increase it, and you will see how the quality will start improving. Just you can I increase it now, but you can just keep it as it was. Now we can add like a surface, like a wall or something that will reflect the light and give a bit more of quality to the image. And we can do that by clicking on Add, Mesh, and Plane. Now we can, you see that we have a plane here on the bottom. And if you click on S and move your mouse, you see that this now increase. So we will make it big, something like that. Good. So now we have a surface, and you see that since the light is above and on the right, it's creating the shadow on the other direction. Of course, you can play with that. And of course, you can play with the location of the plane. I'm going to lower it a bit down because, as you see, that it was a bit on top of the object. Good. Now, the same as with the cells, we can also change the material and the color of this. So with the plane selected, we can go again to Materials, click on New, and without touching anything else, we can change the color to something like orange, something like that. You can choose whatever color you want, and you might also play it with the surface. This you can only learn by playing with it. So test the different surface modes. You can go to make something that is metallic and is more shiny, and more advanced techniques. You can add texturing, so then you can see make like tiny pores or holes that give more of a realistic view. So now, since we move a couple of things, if I go now to the camera, you see that I'm out of the view. So I still have that option checked. So I can zoom out, and I can move this up and position it in this location. Good. Now, we can try to render this here. What time is it? Okay, so let's do a test now with these 3 cells, and we are going to increase, the quality of one of them, so you can see how this works. So render 5 and render image. Good. So now should start. Okay. So basically, this is the pipeline for generating images. You see, these are main tools for still images. Now, imagine that you want to generate a lot of these cells. You can, of course, duplicate them and so on, but it's easier to work with geometry nodes. And this is a bit more of an advanced tool. I will try to show a bit of an overview now. So it's almost done, but I will stop it here that you get the idea. So I'm going to select this round cube and shift this one, so I get the nuclei and the cytoplasm of the first one. And right click, and I'm going to join this. So this becomes a single object. And why is that important? Okay, so let me show you. We are going now to select the plane. And you see that here we have different modes. So we've been working all the time with layout, but of course, you can move here. So we're going to go to geometry nodes. In case you don't see it, it might still be there. Just go with your wheel of the mouse, might be a bit hiding there. So I click on geometry nodes, and you see that I have this menu here, sorry, this whiteboard here, let's say, and still my view here. So I'm going to click on new, and here we're starting to create nodes. So the first thing that I'm going to do is to get this round cube here that I have, and I'm just going to drag and drop it into this whiteboard. So I'm just going to position it here. So just to tell with which object I want to work. Now, we're going to add other nodes to this map. So if you click on Shift A in your keyboard, Shift A, you can then search. And here, I have here like a list. So we're going to use distribute points on faces. Yeah. So we have this one here, and we are going to click again, Shift A, search, and we're going to go to instance on points. There's also instance to points. We're going to go instance on points, and we're going to position it here in the middle. Okay, so since I already moved the things in between, it automatically connected some stuff, but you can do that, of course, manually. So the first one, geometry to mesh, is okay. Now, object, we are going to move this geometry to instances. And points, if you don't have it there, you can put it on connected to points. Now, you see that this is huge. So what we can do is downscale this. So if you click on X, Y, and Z, and while clicking drag down, you can change all of these numbers at the same time. Otherwise, you can do one by one. And I'm going to go to 0.2. Okay. So now you see that this looks a bit better. I might put it a bit smaller, 0.1. Okay, so that generated a bunch of cells now. And we can also play with the density of them and the size to make it a bit what we want. So we can go again to the render mode, and you see that we have all of these objects here. If you're happy, now I'm going to leave it like this for the sake of time, and go again to layout. So now you will see that depending on how much quality you put in the modifier, your computer might be suffering or not to render it and even to move your mouse. So you will have to play a bit with that. Now you see that this becomes quite dark, so we can play with the light. By default, I always change the light. I just left in this case, also for time reasons, the one that was coming by default, but you can change this one. So if you click on light and you go here to the light bulb, oops, I'm already there. You see that I'm using a point of light, and you can play with the power of this light. You can change to sun, and then it becomes very bright. We can also position this sun up, and we can play with the strength. So this is very high. I'm going to go to 20. So you can play with the power of this. Depending on where you move these ones, you will be generating a shadow in different locations. Now, if you remember, we generated this plane on the bottom that we don't have now. And this is because we use this plane to actually create this kind of layer of cells. So if you want, we can generate another mesh plane. So you see that I have it here very tiny. And again, I can press with my keyboard in S, and then with my mouse, just move it to make it bigger. Here, a nice trick is that imagine that you just want to scale it up in different axes. You can do that. So I still didn't click it. So if you press S and then X, you can expand this in the X axis, or Y, and then you do it in the Y, Z, the same. So in this case, I'm just, if you want to cancel something, you can click on the right bottom of your mouse. I just want to scale it homogeneously and make it big like this. And again, we can change the color of this plane, new, and make it again like in kind of an orange color. And I will position it a bit down. And now I will go again to the camera view. So I click on 0, and you see that again, I'm a bit out of focus. So I can zoom out. I can also move to a location that might be better for rendering. It's a bit tricky now. I will put the plane a bit down here. Good. And you can start again a render. I see that here you see that the plane is a bit small. So I will move it. I will try to move it so that it covers all my field of view of the camera. Good. And then if I'm happy with that location, I would still click on save again. And this is something that I continuously do, not only saving, but actually saving and duplicating the file. So then I have a bit of versioning, and I can go back. And then I can go to render image. And again, you can play with the number of samples that you are using for making a bit faster or slower. So you see that now we have a lot of cells. The quality is quite high for the rendering, and it takes more time to actually start the sampling. So meanwhile, this is rendering, and I see that it's already time. Some notes. So if you want to start with something that you created in another 3D program, you can also do it. For example, imagine that you have an STL or a CAD or something that you create in another software, imagine for bioprinting or other machines, you can still import it here. You can go to File, Import, and import that STL. It has different formats for importing. Also, since this is open source, there's a lot of people creating add-ons for Blender. There's some nice ones that I use a lot that is called molecular nodes. In this one, you can just get the code of a protein that is in a data bank, in a public data bank, put the code in Blender, and then automatically you have already that protein there. It works also for molecules. It works also for DNA. So very, very nice. For that, it's actually much simpler than this. You just put the code and it generates it, but you can play a bit with the light and rendering and so. And for that, yeah, molecular nodes. So you can search online and follow the tutorials of the developer of this add-on. I highly recommend it. and I see that it's still an 8, but 8 of 20. I'm going to leave it here. I had renders that took one night to make, especially the animations. But yeah, and with this, I think I can stop and leave it here. If I know how to do stop show screen. Yes. So I hope you could follow. Otherwise, yeah, I think you can still follow it later on.
Okay.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm personally amazed. We are gonna give some. Yeah, we forgot to say before that you can, of course, type in your questions in the question tab or in the chat. While you do that, we are going to launch a very fast poll that you can answer, and in the meantime, you can think some questions. Yes.
Okay. The people are answering the poll.
Yeah, it's the first time we do this, so we didn't know how it was gonna be.
Okay.
Okay. Maybe Gianluca,
Yeah.
we can already ask some questions because I have a question that I think doesn't need to see the screen. So maybe I can go with that one. What do you think? Will I launch the next question?
I don't know because I'm checking the polls. Okay. Oh no, it's closed. Okay.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, we cannot answer. Okay, there is a next question. It's about to see which, but in the meantime, if it is fine for you, Adrian, I want to ask you when we increase the resolution of the. So you were talking now about like increasing and decreasing the resolution. Does it impact the file size? Not the one of saving your file like. Well, actually, maybe this is related to another question. No, when you save your image, their final image, in which format is that possible? And then if the size increases or decreases depending on the resolution.
Yeah, so there's two things. You can choose the format. By default, I think it's PNG is what I normally save them to, because then it's very easy for presentations and so on. But you can also choose other format. There's also TIFF. The size doesn't change when you the size of the generated image doesn't change when you increase this surface modifier. But you can also, in this render tab that I was showing, you can also choose for a resolution of the actual image. By default, is 1080, so is that HD? But you can put it to 4K. And then, of course, it will take a bit more of time for rendering. It will render things depending on your computer in half. So so imagine that you have the default settings, 1080. It will render everything at once, as you were seeing. If you double that, it will render half and then the other half, and then the image that you are generating, then it will be bigger. But not if you increase the surface modifier. I might be wrong, but it doesn't change the size.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. That was my question.
Another question, Adrian. Before you told us about animations, and also I really like the animation about the red blood cells inside the vessels, and how you can do it with Blender in few words. Don't.
Yes. Might be. It looks very complicated, but it's not that tricky. So for the red blood cells, it was a bit different because then you have to play with a bit of nodes and so on, and that I did it fully. So if you look for tutorials of how to do this, you will find the one that I follow exactly. But for making simple animations, that is the ones that I use for showing processes in the lab. If you click on the object, you see that you have the timeline on the bottom, and you see that it has an arrow. So with the object selected, you just press I on your keyboard, and it will prompt you with a menu. And you select location and scale, and it will save that location. Then you move that object to another location. Well, first you move the timeline to I don't know, 10 seconds. You move the object and then press I again. And then there you store the second location. So then that's already saved. The animation is already done. So then when you press on the scale and the space bar, you see that this moves already from one and the other. So it's just changing the location in the timeline and pressing I to save the location of the object in the different points of the timeline.
Okay. Yes, thank you. Yeah, okay. It seems a user-friendly toolbox. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, in the chat. Okay, no, we don't have so far other questions in the chat.
Yes, there is a question I see now.
Before
Yes.
Yes.
Shall I read the question? The question says, well, hi Adrian, thank you for your talk. For importing the models, for example, ECTL files from other softwares, is it still possible to use the Blender tools to modify them, as in scale, morph, duplicate, etc.?
I'm not totally sure. I only did it once, and for something that I wanted to keep that way. But technically, I think you can do it because it will import the mesh, and you can still then modify the mesh. And for sure, you can add materials on top and shadows. So I'm saying this from should be, but I just imported once to try it and never play with it. Normally, I use separate programs for those things. But yeah, technically, I think you can because it will import the mesh. There's also, so if you remember that we were using different shadowing options. So in the top right, the first one that was easy on your computer, then second one a bit harder, and then the third one that it was the render. If you go to the very first one, that is like a mesh, like a globe. If you click there, you enter edit mode, and yeah, you should enter. Let me double check if it's in that location. Yeah, so you enter on the, it's called X-ray. I think some YouTubers call it X-ray, and then you see there the mesh. And in the very left, you see that it's object mode on the very left of your window in the interface. You can click in this object mode and choose edit mode. And there actually you see the whole mesh of your imported stuff, or the ones that you generated in Blender. And you can actually move the vertices, the faces, and actually edit. So yeah, most probably you can try with that with STL edit mode on the left and the X-ray on the right.
There is another question. Yeah, the question is it possible to do also color transitions in the animation? For example, to simulate the change of the phenotype of a cell? Yeah,
so in this case, what you want to do is exactly the same as I was describing before to change the location. But in this case, apart from changing the location, you change the color. So imagine, yeah, instead of moving it, you just go to the material, change the material, and then move it in a different sequence, in a different second of the time lapse. And then press I again, and then you will see that from that panel, apart from location, scale, and so on, you also have the option of color. I don't recall now exactly how it's called, but there's a bunch of things there that you can save in the different locations of the time frame.
Okay, I don't see other questions.
Okay. Just for info, this webinar will be uploaded on the YouTube channel, on our YouTube channel of ESB.
Yeah, that was a little more question. Okay, let's give some time, but I don't see other questions coming. I want to thank you again, Adrian, because I really, as I said, I was really amazed. Like I thought at the beginning that it will be complex to use, but at least how you have explained it doesn't look that complex. It does, I think, requires some experience to get used to it, but it seems indeed, as Gianluca has pointed out, user-friendly. Like for example, animation, like a bit like a time lapse, like you would do with real objects or moving it, picture moving it. So I think, yeah, I agree with Gianluca. It looks user-friendly.
Yeah, for basic stuff, you can, I think, get it in an afternoon following some tutorials. If you then want to go crazy and add textures and make it more realistic and so on, then there's a steep learning curve that I also don't want to invest that much time for learning it, but then you have to play with the same nodes for geometry nodes, but then for textures, and then it becomes complex, but you can get very high quality stuff there.
So maybe more like a personal question, I think personal for you. Do you use always in your presentations or publications, do you use always 3D images? I mean, with Blender, or do you also use 2D images?
Yeah, so mostly Blender because so you can get the same. So if you want something quickly done, you can also, once you get a bit hands-on, you can also make it as quick as Illustrator for the simpler stuff, of course. But then for PowerPoint, so not for publications, then for presentations that you want to just show a process and so on, then I rely like everyone in just normal boxes and so on in PowerPoint. And then normal 2D illustrations that are quickly and sometimes easier, honestly, to understand because you focus the attention more like in the 2D, in the illustrations and in 3D. So yeah, for final images, like covers and so on, yes, then yeah, for sure Blender. Quickly presentations, of course, not. I don't have that much time for
yeah,
that.
certainly the cover you have shown, I think it was amazing. I mean, it was very nice to see. So I think it can be some ideas for PC covers, for example. Okay. Yeah, I don't see any other question.
Okay.
So I think that is for today. Perfectly on time as well. Again, thank you very much. I'm very happy we have contacted you because I'm definitely interested. So I hope that we all give it a chance. There is a survey for the attendees. There is a survey normally. Yeah, about what do you? I mean, it's, as I say, something multi. We're trying how the polls and the surveys work to make it a bit more interactive. So also, if you can rate how have you liked it, and also if you have future ideas. I mean, sorry, ideas for future ESB webinars. A topic that you will like. They're always welcome, and then we can try to organize it. So that's it. Thank you again, and I hope you all have a very nice evening and a very nice week.
Thank you, Adrian.
Thank you, everyone, and thanks for inviting me.
Presentation. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.